What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another show of the AFC East Summit. We are really excited for this one tonight, talking some of our favorite players on our respective teams here. So, boys, I'm pretty fired up for this one. Let's go around the round table real quick, see how everyone's doing tonight. I'm going to start off on top here. We're going to start with our boy Dom from the Jets, representing his squad out there. Dom, how's it going, man? What's new? Anything Jets news related? Anything going on out there? A-Rod, what's he doing? Sauce Gardner, they're doing like some weird handshakes and whatnot.
They're doing something, gentlemen. How's it going? Glad to be
man.
here as usual. Nice to see y'all smiling faces. I know Aaron Rodgers was dealing with a little bit of a leg injury, ankle. So his OTAs were a little bit.
He's gonna need a cane
difficult.
or something. A walker.
What's that?
He's gonna need a cane or a walker or something.
I see shit's already started. I see it already
I love
started.
it, man.
Hey, we're supposed to be directing this towards Chris for the Pats, not
Yeah,
towards
that's
me.
right.
Remember
Right,
that?
yeah, we're all
Remember?
ganging up
My
on
bad.
Chris
We're supposed to be ganging
Listen,
up on
we're-
Chris.
Patriots over here just preparing for the playing for the Super Bowl run. Okay, so you can gang up on me if you want, but we're ready.
Man,
Hey,
I
we
love it.
still got that bet.
Oh yeah,
So,
drinks on Dom.
Yep, drinks
Drinks
on
on
me.
Dom.
Yep. We'll see how that goes. It's probably going to be drinks on Chris, but that's a different issue. But yeah, everything's aces. All good.
I love it, man. Sounds great. Chris, how we doing, man? What's new out there?
Doing well, just enjoying being a fan of the greatest NFL organization. in
Wow,
history.
here we go.
Wow.
Here we go.
See, remember I said not stroking that ego? Here we go.
Yep.
Dom
Yeah,
was going to
also-
bring a signed Mac Jones helmet onto the show today just for you, Chris, but he decided not to because of what you just said there. So,
Listen, that
talking
Mac
about a
Jones-
rebuild after you're in the playoffs like 2 years ago, it's pretty crazy. Man, you don't even know what a rebuild is.
Yeah, listen, stock's going up. So make sure you hold on to that Mac Jones helmet because after this season, it's going to be worth a lot more.
Bill O'Brien,
what?
baby.
You want to put another wager on that one too?
I'm down to put another $20. We could do
Oh,
that.
But
Let's
we'll
go.
we'll talk about that. We'll talk about
Yeah.
that later.
Sounds
We got to
like a
tell
plan.
Mike to get a little ticker in the corner. We'll have all the bets laid out on it, and then we'll have the odds and all that good stuff, and we'll make it look real fancy. Something special
We're
like
gonna
that.
we're gonna have to, but it's gonna be all three of us versus Chris as usual.
Yeah.
That's right.
I mean, it's always everybody against the Pats, everybody versus the Pats because they're the team to beat.
Yeah,
I guess so, man. You're one of probably one of the very few who loves the Pats outside of Boston. So I will say, I don't know how widespread your fan base is, but I know it rides pretty deep there in New England. So, well, I guess Boston and the New England region, I should say. I know you're down in Florida there, so you're a brave man supporting that team, and I respect it. As much as I hate it, I also do respect it. So
Agreed.
going down to another man who represents a team in the state of Florida but lives in Philly. We got Keith here. Keith, welcome back, sir. How we feeling?
I'm great. I'm doing good. Now,
Love it, man.
to your last point there, my best friend's a Patriots fan, and he lives in the Philadelphia area as well. So, now his family's from Rhode Island, so he's got Boston roots.
Gotcha.
New England
I'm
roots.
dealing with a bunch of transplant fans here. I'm the only one that I live in Buffalo. I'll be about 7 minutes from the stadium once I get into my new house. Right now, I'm about 17 minutes away. And boys, I drive past that stadium every day. They started construction on a new stadium last week. It's looking great. You can hear the trucks from my workplace right now. It's just beautiful. Sometimes I just have to take a drive over by there and just pause and look and see what's going to be coming in the future.
It
It's
looks like it's going to be
gorgeous.
a pretty gorgeous stadium.
I'm very excited
for it too. I'm
Hell
definitely.
yeah.
I went to
Hell yeah.
the Bills Pats playoff game 2 years ago where it snowed and was super freaking cold.
The
Love
rough
it.
one. That was a rough one.
That was rough. That was really
I
rough.
yeah, I
Especially
got a
coming
great
off from
story
Cali.
about that. I was not
Um,
able to make it to that game. I actually had other plans that day, which is a killer. I mean, the plans were to watch the game, obviously, but I had a party that was already scheduled like prior to it, and then of course they announced the playoff schedule. But the party basically turned into a Buffalo Bills watch party anyway, so it's no big
Oh,
deal.
yeah.
But I just wanted to feel what those players were going through. So I went outside. I had nothing but a T-shirt on. I walked out there. I stood out there for about 10 minutes. Call me crazy. I didn't get frostbite, thank God, but I just wanted to feel, the wind chill and feel like I was actually there, So it was beautiful.
If I had the opportunity, I'm glad I went to the game, but my brother and I were so cold that I had like frost on my eyelashes and I was doubled up on all the gear. And I mean, coming from Cal, I don't have any cold weather gear. So I had to buy everything on the way to Buffalo from Albany, which is where my family is. So it was like, it was a great time, but weather was rough. I wasn't used to that cold weather.
I'm sure you were Team Dome that night. There's a lot of back and forth on whether the Bills should build a dome on their stadium and whatnot. I am all for the elements, boys. I love the elements. That's what football was built on. That's where you see all the nostalgic moments. I mean, I hate to bring this up, but hey, does the tuck rule happen if it's not in the snow, Chris? I mean, so many moments, so many terrible moments.
Chris, was that a fumble? Be honest.
It wasn't a fumble. No, it wasn't a fumble. It was a tuck. He was tucked. I
don't even know why I asked.
I knew the answer before you even got the question out of your mouth.
Yeah.
Listen, Tom Brady was great. Listen, Tom Brady was great, but back then, was he really that great where they would create a new rule for him? Was he so great at that point where they just make a new rule?
You're right. You're right. Maybe he was just, I don't know, man. Maybe he just had something about him.
He was on the cusp of greatness, but he wasn't the great NFL legend that he is today.
He had an aura around him that just screamed crybaby. There was something.
Well, listen.
No, listen. All due respect to Tom. Listen, the guy is the GOAT. There's no doubt about it. We're not going to debate that tonight. I mean, he's unbelievable.
I don't think anybody's going to deny that here.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
Unfortunately.
And if you do deny it, then it's just pure hate. You must be a Steelers fan or something,
Whoa,
That's right.
Whoa.
Hey, we'll leave those guys way out of this chat.
Yeah. I don't hate any NFL team, but I don't like the Steelers.
Okay. Steelers are a little hit or miss for me as well. I know a lot of Pittsburghians, a lot of Donners, who love and represent that team. Keith, I'm sure you know plenty being in the Philly area. You guys are state divided. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm ambivalent about the Steelers. I really don't care about them one way or the other. It's the Ravens I don't like. And you know what? I have to say, I hate the Bengals too, because my girlfriend told me that we hate the Bengals because they injured Tua last year.
Because of Tua, yeah.
She loves Tua, so they hurt Tua. We hate the Bengals now.
Listen. All I can say about Tua is that the Dolphins injured Tua. They should have never let that boy come back in after that first concussion.
You're right. You're right about
Dolphins.
That. Yeah. Absolutely.
I agree.
I'm still co-signing starting Mike White over Tua, but like I said, another issue.
Yeah. No, man.
They gotta get their money's worth. They gotta get their money's worth as much as they.
Then they should have upgraded more of that offensive line.
Yeah.
Amen to that. We talked a little bit about that last week, boys. And listen, I don't know if you got me totally sold on Brandon Shell either. So I think we upgraded ours a little bit, but we're kind of in the same boat there. It's a little hit or miss on our O-line as well. I'm sure you feel the same about yours, Dom. I don't know about New England. I mean, they took Cole Strange, who I think did overperform his draft grade, but. Boys, let's get into this. I mean, we've been talking. This is what we do. We get on these long tangents and everything. Tonight, we got a very special show here. We're going to be talking about our favorite players for our respective teams. We're going to do our top 5 favorite players for our teams, in addition to some honorable mentions. So I did 5 honorable mentions for myself here, and there is some criteria to this list. So we made up a rule that the player had to have played for our team for at least 5 seasons. And I think that's fair because you have a lot of those one-offs. Like T.O. played 1 year for the Bengals. There's a lot of guys out there who have those one-and-done seasons and end up retiring and sailing off into the sunset. Aaron Rodgers might only have 1 year as a Jet.
T.O. had 1 year with the Bills.
There. Exact. T.O. with the Bills. Perfect. Perfect example.
I do want to say I have one player who only spent about 4 seasons with the Patriots, but
we'll let
very
you slide.
Impactful. Yeah, he was very impactful, so he deserves honor.
No, Chris doesn't get any slack. No slack. No slack for Chris.
We don't need it. We don't need it.
I'm just gonna keep marking those ticks.
Hey man, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Start throwing wagers.
Well, boys, let's get right into this. I mean, here we go. So these are my favorite guys here. First off, I got to give some shout outs to my honorable mentions. First off, because this was a very hard list to compile. I also added another piece to my criteria that I had to have seen them play at least once in my lifetime. So all of these guys you see on here, I did at least watch play, whether it was towards the end of their career or whether I followed them throughout the very beginning. So without further ado, let's start this list here. So as I mentioned, let's go through some honorable mentions. So these honorable mentions, they don't quite qualify because they didn't have 5 full seasons necessarily. And on top of that, it's just tough to put them over these other 5 here. So I'm going to give those guys a shout out first, give them their due respect, and then we're going to get right into this top 5 list. So first off, honorable mentions for myself. We got the Amish Rifle, Ryan Fitzpatrick. I mean, how could you hate a guy like that? He's doing great things on the Amazon Prime pregame show now. Absolutely incredible human being. He actually played for 3 of the teams in the AFC East, but he played for my team the longest. And honestly, he tore it up for us quite a bit, but he would leave you crying at the end of the day most of the time. So would always throw like that game-clinching interception. So it was tough to obviously I couldn't put him over Josh Allen or any of these other guys, but he was beloved here in Buffalo, and he still says that the Bills are his favorite team. By the way, fellas, while he was the starting quarterback for the Washington Commanders, or the Washington football team at the time, he was in the stands of our playoff game, and his shirt was off, and he was doing the towel in the air. I think it was that Bills-Patriots game, actually, Dom. So he was in attendance as well. So pretty cool to see that. He still loves Buffalo, still sticks up for the Bills, still calls Buffalo his second home, which is great. Not sure if he actually still lives here, though. I don't think he does. Another guy I have to mention, Jabron Hamden. This is a name you guys probably have no idea who this young man is. I know because he was maybe the most entertaining thing that we had from about 2007 to 2009. Those were some dark seasons, some very dark years for us. It was during the drought period. But Jabron Hamden had his show called Hangin' 10 with Hamden. So he would do this little media show and have some players on. I remember he hosted a swim race between Kyle Williams and Marshawn Lynch, and it was freaking awesome. It was electric. By the way, both those guys, excellent swimmers. It was super awesome. If you have time, Google it. It's on there, and it's awesome to watch. And he did a bunch of other different shows and whatnot, but it was by far the most entertaining thing about the Buffalo Bills at that time. Also played in NFL Europe, won or I think he was the offensive MVP in 2006. So had to give him a shout out just because kind of made light of a terrible moment. So then we got, who else do I have here? I had Jabron Hamden. Had to mention my boy Larry Centers. I'm a huge fullback guy. Guy caught 80 balls for us in 2001, led the team in catches. Also the start of the drought period basically for us. So had to throw him on the list there. And then I also have another fullback, our current fullback, Reggie Gilliam, who they call the Sledgehammer. Freaking incredible name. Absolutely love the guy. Have a jersey of him. Right now it is actually in storage because we're in the process of moving. But man, he's got a lot of great things that he's been doing for this team, and we got to utilize him a lot more. And then last on my honorable mention list, we have George Wilson, an undrafted safety or receiver turned safety, I should say. Played for the University of Arkansas, came to the Bills. Like I said, made a position change and actually did pretty damn well as a safety for us. Played here for, I think, 8 seasons in total. And, man, he had some great moments, especially against the Cowboys on Monday night. I know he had 2 interceptions, and I think 1 he took back to the house. So I'll always remember those moments, and just love that guy. Also, incredible eyes. You ever Google him? Great roster picture on that young man. Mm-hmm. All right. That was long-winded. I wanted to get through that quick. Let's dive into my top 5 here. So Mike didn't really put these in order per se, but I do have them in order. So starting at number 5 in the bottom left-hand corner there, fellas, Kyle Williams. He was the heart and soul of the Buffalo Bills franchise from 2006 to 2018. The guy was drafted in the 5th round out of LSU. He had that little Southern draw to him. And at the same time, he'd give you a hug, but also he would tear you apart on the field. It was a beautiful thing. Now, most of his memories here as a Buffalo Bill, there was just so much struggle. The front office was turning over left and right. And this man saw, I don't even know how many starting quarterbacks for this team, but he did get to play with Josh Allen for 1 season. And the year before that, he finally was a part of that team, the first team of the Bills in 17 years that clinched a playoff berth, and it was against Keith's Miami Dolphins. And we did get some luck, obviously, because we had to watch the Bengals take it to the Ravens and Tyler Boyd take it to the house. And then we donated $1 million to Andy Dalton because of that, which was amazing. But I'll always remember that game specifically, the Bills-Dolphins game there that we actually clinched, because Kyle Williams took a rushing touchdown into the house, and they did a celebration where him and everyone else were bowling pins, and they all fell down. It was freaking awesome. So Kyle Williams, man, I mean, you can't hate this guy. He was the heart and soul of this Buffalo Bills team during the drought. And that's really, I mean, these were the primary years where I watched Bills football. All I knew was losing up until about well, really 2017, but that was kind of a just all luck for the most part. So had to put him on the list there. Rolling right into number 4, we got my boy Fred Jackson. Fred Jackson was fantastic. Again, a guy that never really gave up, was always sort of overlooked. He was undrafted, ends up playing 2 years in the indoor football league for the Sioux City Bandits. He went to a Division III school called Coe College. And the reason why he even got a shot with the Bills was because Marv Levy, Bills legend and Hall of Fame coach, he went to Coe College, and he said, let's take a shot on this running back. This guy tore it up in the NFL Europe League, which he went to and played in 2006 after the indoor league. And the Bills gave him a shot. He ends up starting and ends up overtaking the role that Marshawn Lynch was in, actually. We traded Marshawn Lynch, and then Freddie was our premier back for a little bit there. And what a great talent, man. He was just awesome for the community. He still sticks around the Buffalo area here, and he had his own show as well. It was called the Fred Jackson Show. Nothing too crazy, but I did get to attend that, and I got to say hello to Freddie, and he is nothing but an absolute class act. Just an awesome human being, and we love him for it. I do have a Fred Jackson jersey as well, and man, I could not put him on our list here. So that is my number 4 guy. Rolling into number 3, fellas. I know this is a lot here. Just take it all in. You're learning a little bit of history here, I'm sure. And I'm sure you remember a lot of these guys because you played against them, and they were actually our impact players during this drought year. The drought seasons, I should say. Number 3, we got Brian Moorman. Perhaps the best player on our team during the drought years. Played with us from 2002, I think, or 2001 to 2012, and then came back in 2013 for a short stint. Never good when your punter is the premier player on your team. He will be famously remembered for that major hit in the Pro Bowl when the Pro Bowl actually mattered. Rest in peace to Sean Taylor, but ends up taking a fake punt run and gets absolutely smacked. If you have a chance, that's something you want to probably YouTube. It was awesome. And Brian Moorman gets right up, and he's all fired up. He's all jacked up. I think he went and high-fived Sean Taylor after that hit. He freaking loved it. This guy ran track, by the way, in college. He played at Pittsburgh State, D2 school out there in Kansas. And he was awesome for us, man. He's on the 2000s All-Decade team. Only behind Shane Leckler, really, is probably the best punter in the AFC at that time. So absolutely had to give him a shout-out. Now he was actually a realtor, and fun fact, he was the realtor for my wife's uncle when he bought a house down in Florida. So kind of cool story there. So had to put Brian Moorman on the list there. Number 2, we got Thurman Thomas. And Thurm, another personal touch with this one because Thurman Thomas still lives in Buffalo, still does a whole lot for the community. He actually had his own training center he called it Thurman Thomas Sports Training. And I actually got to work out there, which was super cool. And I've told this story a few times to Mike on our Nickel City Mafia show. But pretty awesome, man. He was just the most down-to-earth dude in the world. Would just sit there and shoot the shit with myself, my dad. And he actually owned an indoor league team at the time called the Rochester Raiders. And he gave us tickets to a game, and we sat behind him and his family. They sat in the front row. We sat in the second row, and it was freaking awesome, man. I mean, he treated us like family. Super cool guy. Signed a jersey for us to said, to Al and the boys, and just awesome memories with him. And, of course, Hall of Fame running back. Obviously, we're gonna throw out that year that he played for that other team down there in Florida. But
I mean, Dolphins legend Thurman Thomas.
Yeah, that's how Keith introduced himself to me as we were talking about players. And he started talking about Thurman Thomas, saying he was a legend for the Dolphins, which, obviously not a great time in the history of the Bills. There, getting rid of Thurm and Andre and Bruce, that was basically our dynasty years right there. Got rid of all 3 of those guys, so absolutely unbelievable. But he has since made up with Buffalo, and again, man, he's a outspoken person for us and just an incredible human being. So had to put him as my number 2 guy. He was very close to number 1, but no one makes me feel the things I feel quite like Josh Allen. That includes my wife.
You mean your twin?
Yeah, your doppelganger.
My twin.
Yeah, your twin.
Yes. Just kidding about the wife part. But I did tell her at one point, I think I did say, Josh is single. Well, not anymore, but when he was single, I said, maybe I throw my hat in the ring there. We could see what happens. I mean, probably would have gotten like a what do you call that? Restraining order. But hey, you know what? It's worth a shot. Absolutely love this man. he has changed the entire franchise. And again, a guy that has an awesome story, super overlooked, sent over 1,000 emails to every college in the country, and only one team took a shot on him, and it was Wyoming. He really wanted to go to Fresno State, but Fresno State passed on him. And it's just such a really inspiring story. Ends up going to Wyoming, still very raw there. Didn't necessarily put up the insane numbers you'd like to see out of a 7th overall pick at quarterback. And our GM, Big Baller Bean, takes a shot on this young man, and he has been nothing but a gem. I've never seen a grown man hurdle another grown man quite like this guy has done it. It started with a hurdle over Anthony Barr, and it has transcended into something that happens at least 1 to 2 times yearly, and it's just a beautiful thing. Freaking love this man. He's behind me as well over there. You can find him just about everywhere in my house. There's pictures of him everywhere, even under my pillow. And I just love the guy. Josh Allen, he is Buffalo. He is everything that Buffalo has ever wanted and ever needed. He's a tough, gritty guy, and now he's on the Madden cover. Look at him, man. Just making dreams come true.
Speaking of Madden cover, I heard a rumor that because he's on the cover, you weren't going to buy it.
So that's not true. I have a beef with EA. I've had a beef with EA since like 2012, and that's because they've basically just been putting out the same damn game every single year with Madden. I have an issue because they only cater to the online player. They don't cater to a guy like me who just wants to get dirty, get involved, and do a franchise mode and pretend that they're a GM. And by the way, they removed all the fun things about Madden, the arcade games, like with the mini camp and doing the situations. And then you had to create a team, you had to create a player. You had the cameos even at the beginning when they do EA Sports is in the game. You had the players do the introductions. Like, how cool was that, man? They got rid of all of that. There's a guy on YouTube. I talked about this in our last show. There's a guy on YouTube who highlighted every single feature that EA has removed from Madden, and it's very sad. But I did see a thing come out that they're bringing back the rushing attack minigame. So that's encouraging, I think. And if you're going to put this young man on the cover, you better make it a good one. So I'm hearing some good things. Dom, if I hear it's a good game, I'm going to buy it. I will at least buy 2 posters, one for each cover of Josh to display in the man cave. I could promise you that.
Okay.
Jake, going to your comment about Madden, I was a really big Madden enthusiast, played it for a few years. I think the game itself had got ruined once they introduced the whole X Factor aspect of it, because it became easier for a lot of, especially the people who would find I don't know how you describe them, the YouTube Madden players, the one who would find the busted offensive and the busted defensive that would cover everything, or they would beat any coverage at all. So that's when it really went downhill for me back in like 2018, 2019. It really just went downhill. And then on another note, so with Josh Allen being on the cover of Madden, how are you feeling about that legendary Madden curse in the upcoming Bills season?
Nah, man. We're already cursed enough. It can't get any worse. And honestly, I think Patty Mahomes broke the curse a few years ago, so I'm good with it. I think the curse is gone. And honestly, with Josh being on the cover, being from Buffalo alone, that's like a double negative type thing. So it's just going to cancel it out altogether. I think, if anything, it's like reverse psychology. It's going to bring us probably an MVP season from this young man and a Super Bowl on top of it.
Or fingers crossed, or knock on wood that it doesn't happen. Rather, could tear his ACL in training camp.
I don't wish
he'd probably play through it anyways.
I don't wish that. That's why I said knock on wood. I don't wish that on anybody, but you never know how these Madden curses go or how these seasons start.
I know, man.
I don't wish injury on anybody, guys. But if the Madden curse causes Josh Allen to lead the league in interceptions, I don't think I'd argue with that. I think I'm cool.
That's fair.
He did have more interceptions last year than I think he had any other seasons. He was getting a little sloppy with the ball, so
he was tied for I think 2nd or 3rd in the league in total interceptions thrown. So yeah, obviously the red zone turnovers were not great, but hey, he's focused. He's a focused man. He might be going out with that girl from Pitch Perfect, but I freaking love it, man. I am now a Pitch Perfect fan. So here we are. Haley Steinfeld, Google her. She's great.
Oh, okay, all right. Good for him.
Yeah.
It's a nice pull by him.
But fellas, this is my list. I don't know. What do you think about it? Initial thoughts? We'll do a real quick review, and then we got to move on to the next guy.
I love it. I love it. I mean, Thurman Thomas was obviously a fixture of their early 90s team. Kyle Williams, great player. Fred Jackson was really underrated in a lot of ways for the Bills. Brian Moorman, I was I was amused by seeing that one on the list, seeing a punter on your list, but it really highlights the dark days the Bills fans went through up until basically the Josh Allen era. And of course, Josh Allen, he has to be number one. He's your guys' savior. I like the list. It's a good list.
Love it. I respect it. Thank you, Keith.
I was a little disappointed. No Bruce Smith, no Andre Reed, no Jim Kelly.
I just interviewed Andre Reed too.
I know. That was tough.
Not even honorable mention.
Oh
no, I know. I guess Thurm. I guess he kind of qualifies in the same era, but I figured that was too easy. Thurm was easy, but I actually had the personal connection with Thurm, so that's why I had to put him on the list. I guess we do now with Andre. Andre's amazing, by the way. Incredible human being. That was one of the coolest interviews of all time with him. But yeah, I guess you know what? I probably should have at least thrown him as honorable mention. I mean, who am I? That's a terrible move. That's a Bush League move on my end.
Hey, Andre,
Mike didn't even say anything.
Tell Andre, if you're watching, you're in my honorable mentions.
Oh, wow. And I felt like we really bonded, fellas. We just posted a short of when he was basically saying that I kind of looked like Josh Allen. So talk about making a guy's head explode. That was it right there.
Ungrateful. Just ungrateful.
Agreed.
Yeah. Hand up. That's on me, fellas. That is on me. But, hey, let's get on to the next list here. I know we got, we wanted to move this along a little bit. So, hey, here we go, Keith. What do you think, brother? Let's roll with this.
All right. Well, first off, I'm going to go with my honorable mentions. I have to mention Xavier Howard on the current team right now. Love Xavier, and he's been an excellent corner for the Dolphins for years. And then on my honorable mention list, I'm just going to go with guys from the late 90s, early 2000s. That defense, loved that defense. I'm going with Brock Marion on the honorable mention. Patrick Surtain, Sam Madison, Daryl Gardner, Tim Bowens. Those guys were awesome. And that defense was just a beautiful thing to watch week in, week out. They didn't get more playoff wins because the offense let them down because Jay Fiedler was their quarterback. So I just wanted to mention those guys. I love defense, and that defense just inspired me every week. So on my list, number 5, I have Rashad Jones. There were dark days for the Dolphins during Rashad Jones's tenure with them. But every week, Rashad Jones brought the intensity. He brought the fire. He hit guys. He made plays. He was awesome week in, week out. Very underrated. He played safety during the Troy Polamalu, Ed Reed era, so he didn't get the accolades nationally that he probably should have. Didn't help the Dolphins didn't play on national TV very often either. But he only made the Pro Bowl 2 times. So in my eyes, he was very underrated. Probably not as good as Polamalu and Ed Reed, but he was number 1 in my heart back in those days. At number 4, I have Richmond Webb. I just love offensive line, guys. I love offensive line. I love offensive linemen. Some of the greatest offensive lines I've seen. Talking early 90s Cowboys, late 90s Denver Broncos with their zone blocking scheme. The light, fast offensive linemen just, beating guys to holes. The Eagles from last year. Watching a great offensive line is like watching poetry. In my eyes, I love watching great offensive lines, and I love watching great offensive linemen do their thing. And Richmond Webb is the best offensive lineman that I've seen. Best offensive lineman of all time. That honor might go to Dwight Stevenson, but I didn't see him play. I saw Richmond Webb play, and Richmond Webb was awesome for the Dolphins. He played from 1990 to 2000, 4-time All-Pro, 7-time Pro Bowler, protected Dan Marino's blind side. He was the man, and I had to put him on this list because I love offensive linemen so much. It pains me that the Dolphins haven't fielded a good offensive line in 25 years. Their best offensive lineman in the past 25 years, I mean, Mike Pouncey. A great offensive line makes everything easier on offense. And I want the Dolphins to get back to the basics and get themselves a good offensive line. And getting guys like Richmond Webb on their offensive line would really help them in that regard. At number 3, I have Dan Marino. Dan Marino's inclusion on this list should surprise absolutely no one. But being number 3 might surprise a few people, and I can certainly understand that. With Dan Marino, honestly, he didn't win a Super Bowl for him, and he presided over an era of Dolphins teams that underperformed. They got beat by the Bills at the biggest moments. Dan Marino's last game was a 62-7 loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars. That game, some losses just stick with you guys. Some losses just never fully leave you. And that 62-7 curb stomping at the hands of the Jacksonville Jaguars will haunt my nightmares for the rest of my life. So while I love Dan Marino, always will, he's not higher on this list because he came up small at the biggest moments while I was alive. I didn't see the 84 Dolphins when he took them to the Super Bowl. I didn't see his MVP season. All I saw was disappointment in the Dan Marino era. At number 2, I have Jason Taylor. Kelly. What?
Oh. Just had to pull it up. I just had to pull it up. I had to do it. I'm sorry, Keith.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. Yep. Yeah.
Continue.
No, I mean, that just goes to prove my point right there. Jason Taylor's number 2, one of the most feared pass rushers of his time. Love Jason Taylor. He won Defensive Player of the Year for them. Bunch of Pro Bowls, bunch of All Pros. He was probably he was the most feared pass rusher in the league when he was playing. Honestly, he loses points for me for going to the Jets. If you Google his name, the first picture that pops up of him is Jason Taylor in a friggin' Jets uniform. That grinds my gears, man. He was a Dolphin. He was a Dolphin. But nah, Jason Taylor was great. And I loved having him striking the fear of God into quarterbacks when he was with the Dolphins back then. And number 1 is Zach Thomas. I grew up wearing a Zach Thomas jersey and wore it all the time. He was all over the field, just made the Pro Bowl after nine seasons of eligibility, which is a crime, by the way.
Hall of Fame.
What did I say?
You said Pro Bowl. I'm like,
I'm sorry.
He made quite a few of those. But
no, he made quite a few of those. No, he just made the Hall of Fame after 9 years of eligibility.
Brother-in-law with Jason Taylor.
Former brother-in-law.
That's right.
They got divorced. But, yeah, Zach Thomas was always my favorite. He was always around the ball. He had a nose for making plays. He had a nose for just being there. Every week, week in, week out, he was the man. He made it in his 9th year of eligibility, and if you look at their numbers, his numbers compare very favorably with Brian Urlacher's, who was a first ballot Hall of Famer. So once again, it goes into the narrative that the Dolphins didn't have as many primetime games because it was a dark time during that time. Zach Thomas was underrated because of the team he played for, because of the era of the team he played for, in my opinion. But that's my list. I love all those guys. But Zach Thomas will always be number 1 for me.
That's great, man. Yeah, I think you really paid tribute to each era of Dolphins football that you had the opportunity to watch. I think he did a tremendous job with that. Love that Rashad Jones is on your list, by the way, because I do think, just in recent memory here, he's one of the most underrated safeties I've watched play football in the last 10 years for sure.
Yeah.
So love that he made your list here. Obviously, you got to mention Zach Thomas and Jason Taylor. How about Richmond Webb, baby? Given some O-line, given that respect, I freaking love it, brother. I think he was a tremendous left tackle. And, unfortunately, didn't probably get as much recognition just because, he played with the Dolphins. He probably should have gotten more. He was a hell of a player, though, man. Awesome list here. I love it.
Yeah.
No Cleo Lemon though. What the hell is that all about?
Yeah, I thought about putting Cleo
Didn't
Lemon
get the
on
5
there.
seasons. Didn't get the 5 seasons.
Well, yeah, Dante Culpepper didn't make it either. Otherwise, he would have made the list.
Trent Green, Dante
Yeah.
Culpepper. How about Chad Henne? My fantasy team name, by the way, Henny Given Sunday, boys.
Any Given Sunday.
He just retired, by the way.
Did he?
And it is a conflict of interest because he was with the Chiefs for the last however many seasons, 5 seasons or whatever.
Yeah.
But had to keep it.
Good. That's a good team name. That's a good team name right there. Yeah. No, I Chad Henne, man. Those were dark days as Dolphins.
John Beck. Who else? There was a lot of names.
Trent
Ray
Green,
Lucas.
Ray Lucas, Trent Green, Pat White started a game for him.
Yeah.
Got
AJ
knocked
Touchy
out.
Feely.
AJ Feely. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Dolphins gave up a second-round pick for him too.
I know. Crazy.
Yeah, love that. Andy Reid fleeced them on that one.
Mm-hmm.
No, it was just really dark times. You know, they were, you know, the Chad Pennington year that they made the playoffs. They were they made the playoffs, got knocked out in the wild card round by the Ravens, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, Ronnie Brown played more quarterback for the Dolphins that year than Chad Pennington did.
I remember watching when they first initiated that against the New England Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
I remember watching Ronnie Brown throw a touchdown pass to I forget who it was. I think it was Anthony Fasano. Yeah,
Anthony Fasano.
Yep. Wow, that's crazy, man. There was one name that I was a little surprised wasn't on your list. Chris Chambers. Chris Chambers. How about that, young man?
I liked Chris Chambers. I liked him a lot. If I'm going with receivers from that era, Oronde Gadsden was my boy. I love the
dude. His hands were he had to have had stickum on his hands. I mean, that guy caught everything.
No speed whatsoever. Couldn't get a separation, but you throw the ball anywhere in his general zip code. He's coming down with it.
Love it. I love it, Keith. What do you boys think? You guys have any objections to this list? Any surprises? Anyone that you think should be on this list? Dom, Chris?
I was a little surprised Marino was further down the list than I thought he would put him, but
yeah, truthfully, when I was making this list, I thought Marino's got to be one, right? No, he's not.
Zach Thomas did go to the Cowboys, though, Keith.
Yeah, you know,
I know how much you love them.
He spent one insignificant season with the Cowboys. If he'd have gone to the Jets, I don't know what I would have done.
Yeah.
I don't have too much opposition to the list. My thing is that whenever we make these lists, I always like to give, there's always the older legends that we always want to give our respect to. But there's so many great impactful players today that you also want to give their roses, because there's a lot of great players in the NFL. So I'm a little surprised that I didn't see any of the newer players, some of the great Dolphins that are out there right now during, I guess, some of the not so dark days,
I agree. Yeah, Keith, if you had to put someone from the current team on your list, who would that be?
Somebody from the current team? Yeah. I mean, I had Xavier Howard on the honorable mentions.
You did mention Xavier Howard. Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
I had Xavier Howard on the honorable mentions. I mean, I love Tua, and if Tua comes around and becomes the player that I hope he'll be on the top 5 list. He'll knock, probably Rashad Jones out of the top 5. Well, probably knock Dan Marino out of the top 5, honestly.
Wow.
If Tua brings home a Super Bowl, that's happening. That is happening.
That's a real big if right there.
Hey. That's a real big if.
Oh, I know. I hear you. But I have high hopes for him. I have high hopes for my boy Tua.
Well, speaking of a guy that knows a little bit about the Super Bowl, unfortunately, I'm sure he's going to have a list littered with ex-Super Bowl players. And look at that. I think every single one of those guys, well, minus Randy, got a chance. He at least played in one, but every single one of those guys has a Super Bowl ring with the New England Patriots. So how about it, Chris? Let's hear it, baby.
Yes. Yeah. I've been waiting for this moment right here. And unlike the Bills, Jets, and the Dolphins, we didn't have too many dark days until late, until recently. So let me just run through my honorable mentions really quickly. Drew Bledsoe, of course, the captain of the ship before giving the reins over to Tom Brady. Dante Hightower was definitely a defensive threat, one of my favorite players to watch growing up. I put the McCourty twins on there, but I also want to focus on Devin McCourty because his contribution to the defense. Second most defensive return yards and third most interceptions with 35 in the New England history. So he's definitely on their list of top defensive players. James White. He was a staple in the offense. New England ran through a lot of running backs, but James White was someone who was always there for Tom Brady. Great receiving back out the backfield. He made one of the biggest plays in the Super Bowl against the Falcons with the goal yard touchdown that ultimately sealed the deal and marked our comeback and championship.
I had 13 catches in that Super Bowl, Chris. Are you kidding me? He had a real good shot. I think if Tom didn't throw for 5,000 yards in that Super Bowl, he would have definitely been Super Bowl MVP.
Yes, for sure. James White was always there. He was always reliable, always out the backfield. So when the defense was stagnant, he was someone who could always get you some good yards. So James White always had to be an honorable mention. And if it wasn't for the great players on the New England team, he'd probably be up there under my top 5 players. And then another one, Julian Edelman, of course, one of the greatest receivers I want to say for New England. Had wonderful seasons. Tom Brady's second best options. He made one of the most. I think the biggest catch of his career had to be during that same Super Bowl with the Falcons, where the pin between 2 defenders, catches the ball, drops it, and catches it again, all without letting it touch the ground. So one of the biggest plays I think I want to say of Julian Edelman's career. So. Great
Should he be a
honorable
Hall of
mentions.
Famer? Should he be a Hall of Famer?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think anyone, during that era, anyone had the potential to become a Hall of Famer for New England. So
we're just stroking Chris's ego right now.
Yeah, really.
Okay, so let's get into my list. I'm gonna start from the bottom and work my way to the top. That way, I can save the best for last. Number 5, I have Troy Brown. Troy Brown, 3 Super Bowls, Hall of Fame inductee. I wanted to name him as one of the greatest wide receivers in New England history. 64,000 career yards, 31 touchdowns. Like I said, one of the best wide receivers. And one thing about Troy Brown I really liked, he was a threat on offense and defense. In 2004, he was stepped in as an emergency defensive player and ended up becoming second in the team on interceptions. So, and he ranks as the 5th longest tenured new Patriot. So, Troy Brown at number 5. Number 4, we have Ty Law. He is the defensive leader in interceptions and returns for the New England Patriots. I think he ended up with 36 touchdowns in his career, and he has also the most, like I said, most return yards and the most defensive touchdowns in New England history. So got to give an honorable mention for good defense because we know the Patriots are based on amazing offense, but also fantastic defense. So give an honorable mention there. Number 3, I have to give it to my boy Randy Moss. He even though he wasn't there for 5 years, he was there for 4. Had every single season right there with New England. He had about 1,000 yards. His best season had to be the 2007 season, where he had about almost 1,500 yards. He had what other stats did he have? He had 39 touchdowns.
23 touchdowns, man.
23
smokes.
touchdowns. 23 touchdowns. And that was out of his 39 touchdowns with Tom Brady. So, and like I said, that led to the perfect season, undefeated during the regular season. Of course, unfortunately, we came up short in the Super Bowl. It was the perfect,
there we go.
perfect regular season, undefeated regular season. It wasn't a fairy tale ending because we did come up short in the Super Bowl, unfortunately, but it was a great season nonetheless. So you got to give it up to boy Randy, and of course he was a Hall of Famer.
Nobody remembers the losers, Chris.
Yeah, that's why we remember the Patriots. Because even if they lost those, we're still winners at the end of the day. Okay, then number 2, I want to give it up to probably one of the greatest, arguably one of the best tight ends in NFL history, and that's Rob Gronkowski. 5th in all-time receiving yards at 9,000, 7th in catches at 600, and 3rd in touchdowns at 93, and 12th in all-time wins at 111. Arguably one of the greatest, big body, always there, always available for Tom when he needed a big play. Fast, strong, hard to bring down. He was a force to be reckoned with. At 6'6", Rob Gronkowski was just an animal. So I definitely I list him as number 1 out of all the tight ends in NFL history. So
biggest advocate for the number 69 I've ever heard.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And then, of course, the man number 1, the man, the myth, the legend. We have the GOAT, the greatest of all time, the greatest quarterback in NFL history. We have Mr. Tom Terrific Brady himself. 251 wins out of his career, 15 Pro Bowls, 5 Super Bowl MVPs, 89,000 passing yards, number one in passing yards, 649 touchdowns, number one in touchdowns. He holds nearly every major record for an NFL quarterback. Tom Brady holds nearly all of them. He has 7 Super Bowl rings out of 10 appearances, which is more Super Bowl wins than any other organization. He's he's undeniably the greatest. So Tom Brady got it. The man who doesn't need too many words. I just had to list out a couple stats because it's just what an amazing career. What an amazing career. So that's my list.
I respect it, brother. Yeah, thanks for rubbing that in. Here I was, it's crazy. When Brett Favre retired, here I was thinking, maybe Peyton will catch him. Maybe Peyton will get those numbers. But then Tom goes and outdoes Peyton even, and outdoes Drew Brees. And he's way ahead now in passing yards and stats and everything. It's just this guy has literally every single record by a quarterback to ever be held. Now, I don't think anyone's going to ever surpass that. I just don't think anyone is going to last in the league as long as he did. And on top of that, I just don't know if there's going to be as much consistency from anyone. Like even that goes for Pat Mahomes. That goes for Josh Allen. Goes for anyone right now. I can't even see it happening. No doubt about it. Obviously, the GOAT. I love your list. I'm so happy you put Troy Brown on that list. I think he was one of the more underappreciated, focal points of that team back in the early dynasty years. From the early 2000s. He, again, like you said, he played defense. The guy I think he had 3 interceptions on defense in 2004.
That season,
Are you kidding me? Yeah. This guy played, and this is towards the end of his career. He's playing DB. Like that's unbelievable.
He came in as an emergency option too, and just ended up staying on defense for that season. Just it worked out for him. He did his thing, so that's why he had to versatility, like you said, at the end of his career too. So you had to give it up for Troy Brown for what he did, what he contributed to the organization.
For sure, man. And the Gronk one, I love Gronk. You can't hate the guy. He is just beloved by everyone. It does hurt a little bit more though, because he's from Buffalo. He played not too far outside of Buffalo, played for Williamsville North here, and originally from the area. And the Bills had a shot at taking him, and instead we take Terrell Troop, I believe it was, instead, which is just god awful. I can't believe we did that. I mean, what are we doing here? So
it's kind of good that he went to the Patriots, because you can imagine if he got picked up by the Bills, how underutilized and how different his career would have been.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah. But no, I love the list. Obviously, you got to put Randy Moss on there. I'll give you a pass on that one. Guy caught 4 touchdowns, I think, and a half against us on a Monday night game. I think they beat us like 56 to something. It was awful. But what a list, man. What a list. What do you guys think?
It was a good list. Gronk, for my money, he's the best tight end I've ever seen, if I'm being honest. He was dominant. Such soft hands. Moved so fluidly, so gracefully for a guy his size. And
power,
he's a great blocker. He was a great blocker. That's what I loved about Gronk. He's a complete tight end. Tom Brady, I don't even know who that guy is. I don't even remember him in the Dolphins.
Had he gone to the Dolphins, Keith, like had he actually gone ahead and became that owner and then became an owner player, how would you have felt about him?
I didn't want him. I didn't. Yeah. I'm being completely honest with you. I did not want him. I want to see I wanted the Dolphins to see what they have in Tua. Be patient with Tua. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. There's egg on my face, whatever. But I did not want Tom Brady on the Dolphins. What are they going to do with a 42-year-old quarterback? They were still a young, rebuilding team at that time.
Hey, that 42-year-old quarterback still won a Super Bowl toward the end of his season with the Bucs.
Yeah, but the Dolphins weren't ready yet, man. The Dolphins weren't ready yet.
They weren't. True. That is very true. By the way, guys, that pick before Gronk, it was Terrell Troop. I was correct on that.
Wow.
Unbelievable. My gosh, defensive tackle, played 2 years for us. Ugh. We end up just absolutely butchering that one. Just terrible. Tough memories. But hey, Chris, this is a phenomenal list, man. I think you really hit the nail on the head with this. The only thing I'm a little upset about is, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, before we actually went live, I said, I hope Ben Coates is on the list there, but he wasn't even an honorable mention.
Yeah, see,
what the heck?
like I said, I started watching football more toward, like, I want to say, like, the middle. I started probably like 2000, 2001, 2002, around when Tom Brady. So Ben Coates, and so like a lot of those older players, I didn't recognize. I didn't grow up watching, so I didn't want to list them. And there are, of course, great players all throughout history, but I wanted to name a bunch of players who had an impact on me, who I enjoyed watching growing up, and things of that nature. So.
I love that, brother. What do you think about? I know there's been some rumors about the Patriots bringing back as an alternate their '90s jerseys. The old with the stars on them. I think that'd be so cool. They got to find a way to bring those back. I think that would be sweet.
I do love the Patriots like retro jerseys, especially the Minuteman logo.
Oh yeah, those are. I'm glad that they did that actually too. Yeah, for sure.
I do love the Minuteman logo. I think that definitely needs to be brought out more, and just I'm excited about it. I do hear that Patriots might be making a push for D-Hop too, so that's going to be pretty interesting.
Did you hear what Bill Belichick said? He said because they asked him, when is D-Hop coming in? He said, "I'm not a travel agent." Just a classic Bill Belichick answer.
Yeah. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Said everything but said nothing at the same time.
Exactly. That's how his whole career has been. It's wild. But
not to pivot from where we think D-Hop is going during this season.
I don't know.
What's the landing point for D-Hop, guys?
I don't think it's either the Titans or the Patriots. I don't think it's either of those teams, to be quite honest with you. I'm hoping it's my Bills, but I don't see that really happening either. To be honest with you, I think there's going to be like a dark horse team that comes in and swoops in. I have a feeling like Cleveland and Cleveland would make sense because then obviously he's back with Deshaun Watson.
Yeah. I've heard rumors to that effect.
Yeah.
I don't see him signing before the season. I think Odell Beckham set the market so high, and he's looking for Odell Beckham money, and he's not going to get Odell Beckham money. Right. And that's his problem right now, is that teams just aren't willing to meet his asking price. So I see.
I was like, go ahead. I was going to say, I don't think Odell Beckham deserves Odell Beckham money personally.
I don't either. No, I don't either. But the problem is that he got that money, and he got that money so the Ravens could entice Lamar Jackson into signing his deal. So the Ravens got something for the money they paid Odell. The problem is now not DeAndre Hopkins is looking at that contract and saying, okay, that's what I want. And I just don't see him getting it.
Yeah. If thinking about it, if D-Hop had been cut before, if he had been cut way before Odell had been signed, I'm pretty sure that the Ravens would have made a bigger push to get D-Hop, because D-Hop is twice the wide receiver that Odell Beckham was. And he deserves every bit, if not more, than what the Odell Beckham got to get signed. But in my opinion, two teams that I could see D-Hop landing on for sure. Either Jacksonville Jaguars, they're really coming to form. Trevor Lawrence really had a great season toward the end of the season last year with Evan Ingram. All his receivers, it looked like the line. They found their running back, so they're really coming to form. They're going to be a team to watch. I think they're going to make really a big wave this year. And also the Detroit Lions.
I was just going to say the Lions. Keep an eye on them, man.
Yeah, Jared Goff really, really proved himself last year. He really proved that I feel he was a better quarterback than Matt Stafford. Granted, Matt Stafford did lose a lot of weapons from his Super Bowl season, but Jared Goff, he played with a chip on his shoulder and had really, really great performances last year. So it's going to be a good team to watch.
Those are two interesting teams, Chris. Two interesting. I hadn't thought about the Jaguars or Lions before, but those are two interesting teams. I like that.
Me too. I love it. Yeah, actually, I think Detroit, it's a very interesting team. You look at what Dan Campbell's done with them, man. It's a fun team to watch. It's a fun team to root for. And I think, being in the NFC, it's cool for us to root for that team, right? I mean, that's one to keep an eye out for. That's the only team since 2000 that hasn't won a playoff game. Are you kidding me? It's time that they get a playoff win this year. If D-Hop goes there, I wouldn't even be mad. But anyways, Dom, what do you think, brother? Is it time? Let's see your list, man. You've been waiting patiently here. I'm really excited to see this list.
This is the Jets.
I knew.
On the list.
Man, always got to yawn. So I'm going to be honest. I didn't even want to put Curtis Martin on the list because he played for the Patriots, but you know how it is. So I'm not going to go in any specific order, and I'm going to throw my honorable mentions as we go. So I'm gonna start with Nick Mangold. So he obviously was the Jet center. The phenomenal center, phenomenal rookie year. Only allowed, I think, a half a sack or a sack and 3 penalties in his rookie year as a center. Just absolute beast, especially for a rookie season, which was insane. Also, if you notice, I actually have 2 defensive players on here and 1 offensive lineman on here. Didn't go a little bit further like somebody did with adding a punter, but it is what it is. Then we're gonna go across to go. Then we're Mangold. Then we're gonna go across to Mark Gastineau. So he played 9 total years, I think, like 80 to 88 or 79 to 88. Yes, I was old enough to watch football then, just in case y'all were wondering. So he was a defensive end, had like 5 or 6 Pro Bowls, led the league in sacks 2 years in a row, and was part of that, what they call the New York sack exchange. Had quite a few, interesting players from that non-designated term, I guess was what we would call it. Then I'm going to go top left and go up to Altoon. And then this is where I'm going to start throwing honorable mentions as we go. So he's one of the top 3 all-time Jets receivers. There's one that I like as well. It's I just had a Wayne Trebet. The reason I
didn't wear gloves, man.
Didn't wear gloves. But the best piece of info is the fact that he was a walk-on.
Yeah.
And didn't even wasn't drafted, nothing. He was a literal walk-on
at Hofstra.
Yeah, from Hofstra, and he's in the top 5 all-time Jets receivers. Now, before Chris starts talking shit about Jets receivers and all that other stuff, in comparison, they didn't have Tom Brady as a quarterback, so you gotta set the standard a little bit differently, is what I'm saying. But I'm also gonna throw Wilson as honorable mention too. So I'm gonna throw some stats just to kind of give you an idea. So Altoon had 662 yards and 3 touchdowns and a 3-time Pro Bowl. So that was just his rookie year. Garrett Wilson, 1103, 4 touchdowns and offensive rookie of the year.
Okay,
so,
I thought you were saying Zach Wilson. I'm like, wait a minute.
No.
Whoa.
No.
I'm glad you clarified.
Yeah.
For the record, Zach Wilson's my favorite Jet.
Of course he is. Of course he would be. Of course he would be. Too many damn interceptions, but that's a different issue. Then I'm gonna jump down. I'm gonna go to Curtis Martin next. So he did play for the Pats first. His rookie year, because I'm gonna throw honorable mentions at the same time. So Curtis Martin's rookie year, he had 1,487 rushing yards, 14 touchdowns, offensive rookie of the year, and 5-time Pro Bowl, along with Hoff 12. But I don't know if you could see this, but he literally has the best signature in all of sports memorabilia.
Oh, that looks pretty awesome. I
Very
gotta
cool.
say.
So
There's just one good thing he did.
I try to hide that helmet because I don't like having Patriots stuff in my house. But Patriots and Cowboys are the 2 teams that are pretty much not allowed here. But I'm gonna go honorable mention to Zonovan Knight and Breece Hall. Newer running backs. Obviously, last year they were rookies. Other than Breece Hall's injury, he was crushing it for the Jets on the running game, crushing it. Even with our we'll call it meh offensive line, he was still ripping defenses pretty well. He ended it with 300 yards and a touchdown. Before his injury, but then I'm sorry, the other way around, 463 yards and 4 touchdowns. And then Zonovan Knight picked up the slack and had 300 yards and 1 touchdown. But that's also, being rookies, and with the offensive line, I think they did really well. And I'm looking forward to them too, specifically for this year. Hopefully Hall's injury is, fully healed and should be hopefully slicing up the defenses. Like we talked about last show, the AFC East defenses are definitely tougher this year. So we'll take it outside that spectrum, and the rest of the NFL, hopefully they carve up some defenses. And then obviously last but not least, I'm going to go Darrelle Revis. So, and then my honorable mention obviously is going to be Sauce Gardner. So just for the newer era, Gardner actually had defensive rookie of the year. 99 tackles and 2 interceptions. They were both on the all-rookie team. Darrelle Revis had 7-time Pro Bowl. His rookie year was 87 tackles, 1 sack, 3 fumbles, or 1 fumble, 3 interceptions, where Gardner only had 2 interceptions. But
they didn't throw his way.
They didn't throw his way. And then same thing, that's the Darrelle Revis thing too, is the first year they kind of tested him based on stats, and then second year on they didn't throw towards Revis at all. Extremely limited. But and then that basically sums up my my top 5, but not specifically in any order. And I wanted to do as well-rounded as I possibly could to throw that out there. I mean, obviously I didn't watch Joe Namath play. Oh, I'm not that old, so I didn't really get to watch him play. But and I didn't obviously mention any other Jets quarterback for obvious reasons. Other than I like Boomer and I like Brett Favre, but Favre only played for a year, and then Boomer only played for 3. Vinny Testaverde maybe a little bit in there thrown in that I liked, but and a little bit of Geno Smith maybe in the beginning, but his second and half of the third year were complete ass. So
no Mark Sanchez either, huh?
Who's that?
Who's that? Mark Sanchez was the greatest.
Hey, he actually had 2 AFC championships he was a quarterback of. How about that?
Butt fumble, where is it? Erases all of that shit.
Yeah,
so can't even throw that out there. So I just ignore that whole entire, I watched that from my memory because that shit doesn't count to me. Because it's Mark Sanchez is synonymous with butt fumble. So it just kind of throws it out there.
Toward the end, it was rough. I remember watching him throw 6 interceptions in the game. It was
brutal.
I was trying to figure out how some of these quarterbacks still have retained jobs.
Agreed.
Well, in Sanchez's case, in my opinion, he was a game manager. He leaned heavily on that Jets defense, which was very solid back then.
Yeah.
And once that defense started to crumble a little bit, guys moved on, guys retired. Sanchez
and it just plummeted.
Yeah, it just had to shoulder more of the load, and it just didn't work for him.
Yeah.
I feel, for defenses, you need to also, as great as the defense is, you also need a quarterback who can move the ball. Otherwise, the defense is just on the field and wearing down. Just when, my favorite memory for the Buffalo Bills is when they had Nathan Peterman as their quarterback, and they had the cornerback who retired during halftime.
Vontae Davis.
Davis.
He's a good corner too, man. I like Vontae a lot. Actually, Vernon Davis's brother.
Yeah, but you can see how if you don't have a good quarterback and you don't have a system, how the defense could just get out of here during halftime. Unheard of, but legendary.
Insane. And you know what? Trey White talks about this moment, and it's freaking hilarious. So Vontae had a very high-pitched voice, and Trey White does a hilarious impersonation of him. So he was talking about when, the interaction at halftime and how Vontae was taking his pads off, and he's like, "No, man, I'm good." So Trey does an impersonation of him, and he's like, "No, man, I'm out, man, I'm good." He's like, "Wait, hold on, Vontae, hold on, just think about this real quick. Just think about this. You're not gonna just get up and retire." He said, "No, I'm good, I'm done." And that's how the way that Trey does his voice is absolutely hysterical. I die laughing. I'm trying to hold it in right now. I die laughing every single time I hear him talk about it. What a legendary moment. And if you ever have a chance, man, just look up that interview because it's hilarious, hysterical. I freaking love Trey White. By the way, he's more locked in than ever right now, guys. I'm so fired up.
How do you so sorry, before we get into I had a question, but I was gonna say, Dom, regarding Dom's list, I really liked his list. I think my favorite thing about it is that you had a mix of the younger guys who were coming in, Sauce Gardner, Breece Hall, who he got me some real fantasy value last year, and he had really, really great performances in the few games he played before he got injured. So I really like the fact that you mixed a younger versus an older, Jets. So I did like that list, Dom.
Mark Gastineau, man, not really given any Hall of Fame recognition. That guy was dominant. Absolutely. He had 2 20-sack seasons. He actually set the record in '84 with 22. And I think the one year he had 19. He was close to 20. He could have had 3
Yeah,
points.
I think the second year he was tied for first.
Yeah.
With 19.
Guy put up
and
numbers.
he only had five Pro Bowls too.
Right.
And
I think he only played what, 8 years, 9 years?
I think he played 9.
9 years. So,
Yeah,
I mean, that's
I think
pretty impressive.
which I mean half his career he was a Pro Bowler. So
Yeah.
I mean that's still better than most. But I coming from the Jets, it's we always get dogged on obviously for being worst previously in the league, but we all know that this year it's going to be the Pats. So I mean in the AFC. So it's I have to throw those stabs in.
Throw the jabs while you're at it.
Oh, have to. And then
I'm a little
obviously,
upset.
Obviously, I'll eat my words if they're not.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, I'm still going to talk shit.
I love it, man. I love the Nick Mangold pick. I'm a little upset you didn't have DeBrickashaw Ferguson on there because I freaking love that young man. He was so freaking good, so consistent, and honestly, probably one of the more underrated Jets in recent memory. But this is a great list.
Absolutely. I love the list, Dom. Great list. Revis obviously had to be on there. Revis Island, he had to be on there. I love that you included an offensive lineman. You and I are the only ones that had offensive linemen on.
Yeah, we are.
Nick Mangold was dominant. How about Kevin Mawai, though?
Great name.
Kevin Mawai, Hall of Famer.
Yes. Well, he played with Seattle, then the Jets, then the Titans. So he kind of split his time.
Yeah. Well, because he didn't play for the Jets though. I think he only played the Jets for 2 years, right?
No, it was a little bit longer than that.
Was it?
Longer than that.
Yeah, it was early 2000s on until about 2006 or 2007, I want to say.
I thought it maybe when I checked it, it was because I thought he didn't fit the parameter, so that's why I didn't throw him up.
Oh, okay.
I think he was sub. I thought it was sub 5 years, so that's why I didn't throw him on.
He played
still a great pick.
He played for the Jets for like 8 or 9 years, guys.
Oh, there we go.
From 98 to 2005.
Oh wow! So that's my bad.
Hey, Nick Mangold also a great center.
I'll still take Nick over him though.
That's good, Dom. It's hard finding a good Jet.
Yes, I love it, man.
That's kind of like how it is. That's kind of like how it is now. You can't find a good Patriot.
No, they're good. They're there. In fact, your list had a few Patriots because some of your best players came from my team.
Wow.
Only one that was worth it.
Dude, Curtis Martin had, I think, every single season minus his last year, he had over 1,000 yards rushing. Isn't that? That's impressive as hell.
He was a rock. He was
so good,
so durable.
Yeah,
so
he really was, man.
Quality running back. Quality.
I feel like the Jets have always had a pretty good run game for the most part. No matter, even Chris Ivory was a Pro Bowler with you guys in 2015. Like, where the hell did that come from? Then we took him.
Yeah,
crazy.
I just wish we had better offensive line.
Yeah.
As the progression for everybody, but hopefully this year changes and more weary of the Jets pass attack to leave defenses a little bit back and give them some running room with Aaron Rodgers. So
he's got some nice weapons, man. Breece Hall coming back too. He's a good receiving back. I mean, they could do a lot of damage. They really could. I feel like Aaron Jones and Breece Hall are going to be very comparable with how they use them, within that offense. I think it's going to be a nice 1-2 punch. You talk about Bam Knight too. I mean, that'll be something to watch for sure.
How's Breece recovering? Is he going to be back?
He'll be back. I think from what I read, he's supposed to miss the first preseason game, which I'm perfectly okay with. Fine. Obviously, give him a little bit more time to heal and make sure his plant foot is good for that knee with all his cuts and everything. He honestly, I'm going to throw this out. He actually reminds me of Barry Sanders.
Ooh. If he could be a shell of Barry.
100%. I mean, Barry and Thurman are probably favorite 2 players ever. And he just, that short, stocky, stacked, just battering ram, basically. Same thing was on him at night.
I think with that comment, Dom just proved that to be a Jets fan, you needed just a little bit of delusion in there,
I love this, man.
Here we
this
go.
Banter. This is why we do what we do with this show, and I'm hoping that everyone's enjoying this. If you haven't, guys, please feel free to leave a comment, subscribe. We're gonna bring you a lot more content like this. This was a fun episode, fellas. I appreciate the hell out of all of you joining.
Absolutely.
By the way, I'm going to be having some guys fill in for me from time to time. We're going to be kind of alternating. I meant to mention him on the last show. So shout out to Sean Kula. Nobody cooler than Sean Kula. He's with the Red, White, and Bills podcast. He joins our Nickel City Mafia show quite a few times. We stream together. We kind of go across all of our platforms at the same time. So it's really nice. And I know he'll be hopping on the show. I think he'll be on the next show with you guys. So stay tuned for that. Sean brings a little different dynamic than me. And he's a little harsher on the guys. I just love everyone, which is not always good because people want to hear the real, the raw. Sean will give you that. So he'll be joining. And then we also have Brett from the Go Bills podcast as well. He's been awesome. He's got some great ideas. I know he's been mentioning them in the Discord chat. So I'm excited, guys. It's going to be fun. And fellas, you got to get yourself some channels. I think you got to represent your teams out there, get it going a little bit, get some Twitter handles going, whatever it may be. I think you got to make it happen.
I think you're right.
The world's missing out on some great stuff.
Mine's definitely going to be #hate Pats Nation, but that's just me.
I love that. I love it. Hey, you know what? This bet is getting even juicier as we go by here. I know
it is.
We all said that New England wasn't going to make the playoffs, and Chris is standing by the fact that they're going to finish second in the division. So we'll see. I don't know, man. I'm not about it.
With the Dolphins and the Jets at 8-9 too. At that. Like that's definitely harsh. I at least gave them a little bit of love at 9-8, but still at the bottom.
See, that's true. That is true,
Dom. The thing about me is I don't believe in optimistic or being nice. I believe in the facts, and the facts are that regardless, Mac Jones has had his time. He's developed. I think he's getting to the point where he's getting used to the speed of the NFL. This is his third season. This is his third season in the league. So he's also a part of one of the greatest coaching in the organization. He's part of one of the greatest coaching staffs that arguably in NFL history with Bill Belichick. The Patriots organization as an organization is just great as a whole. So now that they have a good offensive coordinator, they can help work on the offense. The defense is always going to be strong. The defense is picking up. And we did mention about how a strong defense is a good, as a central part of a team. So if he has a good, strong defense to fall back on, he has a good offense to start running with, we start picking up some offensive weapons. So, I think there's going to be a lot of positives moving forward. And, even though, last year we didn't make the playoffs, the year before that we got to the playoffs and got knocked out by the Bills. Unfortunate, but, I'm looking forward to this season. We're there, we're right there. We just needed a few more pieces. I think we got the pieces and we're ready to go.
I do have a question. So me and one of my sons were debating the AFC East in comparison to the rest of the AFC. Who honestly is comparable or competitive enough to have as many teams be playoff contenders as the AFC East?
I don't know if there is. I really don't. You look at every division; it's pretty lopsided for the most part, guys. I mean, really, maybe the AFC North.
NFC. I think the NFC East is
NFC East. Yeah, sure, you could say that too.
Giants made the playoffs last year. The Redskins have a really solid defense.
Yeah.
No, just stick with AFC.
Oh,
AFC North. Maybe,
yeah, just AFC.
I don't know though.
The West.
I mean, that's what we said is maybe the North, but
the West, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I feel like that's kind of dropped off a little bit now too. Like last year, we thought it was going to be a superpower division, but it wasn't. So
correct.
Yeah,
I do think there's going to be 3 playoff teams from this division. I agree.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think it'd be cool as shit to see all 4. I think that'd be freaking epic.
That would make this show an electric factory, even more so than it already is.
Yeah,
fellas, could you imagine the banter come playoff time? I mean.
Yeah.
Ooh, I mean, Dom and Chris may hate each other by the end of this. I mean, it could be.
He's gonna definitely be on tons of drinks by the end of it.
I'm gonna change my name to the Prophet. Okay, I'm just gonna change my name to the Prophet.
I want you coming in hot next show, Chris. The Prophet. Don't even call yourself just the Prophet. We need it.
Already.
Speaking of, guys, Keith and us from Nickel City Mafia, we will be doing a show on why the Dolphins are the biggest threat to the Bills in the AFC East. So stay tuned for that one. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Whoa, what happened? What about the Jets being the biggest threat to the
Dom,
Bills?
I don't know, man.
What the hell?
Mike
You
and
guys
I
made
are
a whole
kind of on
show
the
out of
same.
imagination.
Hey, you already said I was
You just have to
delusional.
check it out.
Looking
But yes,
forward to it.
that will
Jake.
be happening. I'm sure we'll probably get Dom on there as well. I don't think we're bringing the Prophet on that show, but we might have Dom on there as well.
I don't blame you. I wouldn't bring him either.
Yeah, I wouldn't have anything to say but just pure negativity. It's the biggest threat.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll do two separate shows, one for the Jets, one for the Dolphins. But until the Pats get out of their own way, man, I can't really say that they're going to finish second in the division. I love that you're coming in hot with that, though. I really do respect it.
Yeah.
But fellas, any last comments you want to get off your chest before we take off here?
I had fun going down memory lane preparing for this.
That was
really
awesome.
Had fun looking back to the 90s Dolphins. Not as much fun looking through the early 2000s, late 2000s Dolphins. That was kind of rough.
Painful
Cam Cameron, Cleo Lemon. Not a lot to like there. But
1 in 15. Hey, at least you had the Wildcat, though.
Yeah, that's very true. But in the coming weeks, I'm looking forward to seeing where Dalvin Cook signs, and I'm hoping he signs right here with us.
Could very well happen. He posted a picture of himself in Miami after that game, and he's a big. I think Miami-Dade. He went to school.
Yep,
I want to say yeah.
He's from Miami. Went to Florida State.
Yeah. He's got to right his wrongs. People are still upset that he went to Florida State over Miami.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's kind of a cardinal sin down in Miami, isn't it?
Right.
But I'm really hoping. I'm hoping for good things, good news come our next show. We'll see what happens.
I like that. Dom, what do you got, brother?
As always, appreciate being here. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate the banter. Like he said, love going down memory lane. And also, like he said, that early 2000s and all that, little painful, little rough, but nothing but optimism going forward for this season on.
Agreed. And Chris, the Prophet, what do you got for us, man?
Always
you're coming
always
in. I love the material. This is great. You are a content wizard. Beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's always a pleasure. Pleasure with you guys. I really enjoy being on this podcast. The banter. Dom's always fun talking. Keith, Jake's always really fun talking. And just really looking forward to the season coming up. There's a lot of speculation on what's going to happen, and how teams are going to perform. A lot of off-season news and just big things. So I'm just really looking forward to proving that I'm right.
I love it, man. I love it.
Always got to get that last jab in. Always. Last jab.
Man, if there was a contest on trash talking, Chris, man, I'd be taking you every single time, brother.
Yeah, listen, I'm telling you, just like I said, going down memory lane and just watching just some of the great years that the Patriots have given us, and we can't lie, toward the end of and I know especially for me. Toward the end of, I want to say the Tom Brady era, and watching some of the Super Bowls as of late, they just weren't as entertaining as Super Bowls with the Patriots, right? I guess
agree.
we can always say
you're not wrong.
You're not. Yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
I definitely agree.
Mine is that Rams Super Bowl. What the hell?
That was boring. That was boring. But I think that was Tom Brady, and they hadn't got him the offensive weapons he had needed at that point. He was just kind of working with the defense and just field goal. It was a really
it's a low scoring Super Bowl in NFL history. That even goes back to the 60s, boys. Like how does that even in this NFL? How does that happen?
Yeah. Right. Because, like I said, I don't know. I think there was a lot of drama in the organization at that point. Bill Belichick didn't want to get him the people he needed. His offense wasn't performing. Because who do we have? We had Kendrick Bourne. We had we had the guy I forgot the name of the gentleman we just.
Malcolm Mitchell, was he on the squad at that point?
Malcolm Mitchell. And
I'm buying his children's books, by the way, for my daughter.
Oh, how about
he's
that?
A children's book author now, so he's killing it. Freaking love it.
Okay.
Good for him.
Hell yeah.
Well, I guess if he ever gets out of the NFL, if the NFL doesn't spin out for him, he could always do that, right?
That's right.
But yeah, like I said, just the offense wasn't where it needed to be. We didn't have any pieces, and Tom Brady had a career of making players, better than what they look like on paper. Because even when you think about the organization, the biggest name wide receiver we had was Randy Moss. Outside of that, you can't name a player for the Patriots who didn't make their name in New England. You know,
Yeah, you're right.
So yeah, but you know, it was fun going down memory lane and just watching a great year. So yeah, we'll see. We're hoping that we get back there.
It was fun watching Hanging 10 with Hamden again for me.
Hmm.
Just reliving the drought years, boys. But had some great players during it, and I will always appreciate where we came from. But now we're on to bigger and better things, and I can't wait to win the AFC East this year. So for everyone watching, we appreciate you. For everyone that is going to rewatch this, please leave a comment, like, subscribe. Follow these guys on Instagram, wherever we can find them. Hopefully we can put some plugs in the description here. And also don't forget to follow Go Bills Podcast and Red, White, and Bills and Nickel City Mafia, of course. But we appreciate everyone. We appreciate you boys. And let's do this again soon. And, hey,
Absolutely.
Go Bills.
Appreciate you guys.
See you, fellas. Go Bills.